Who was here last year? All right, and do you remember what we did last year?
Prove that Python was better.
No, we did not. In fact, if I remember correctly, I do not think the Python team created an actual functioning item. There was some hand waving, and I think we have video representation of this, of Mr. Lin talking about the amazing stuff they could have done if they weren't so focused on trying to grab the Sierra time machine binary and get it to run on High Sierra at the time. So, but we do find ourselves in a very cool place, well, cool, in that Mojave is now announced, and we have some very interesting challenges in the desert. Can we abuse that metaphor? We're walking through the desert, and there may be some things. So last year, we did a cool little project on creating configuration profiles. The code that came out of that, I still use on a daily basis. So we created a property list editor where people could actually edit configuration profiles, sign them, and then upload them. So we actually got very useful and very excited about that. We'd like to create something useful this year as well. So tonight, we're going to be doing the Mac Admins podcast from right here. So sessions are over at 5.
Yes.
5 to 6, social milling in the main room. 6 o'clock, Dev Mac Admins podcast here. 7 o'clock, hack night. All right? And we guarantee something useful will come out of hack night. So I'll be there. You're more than welcome to come in. And usually we found this worked really well last year when we had a bit of a manufactured rivalry. And this year, I think Jesse is willing to play that role, right? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I think this year Victor is willing to play that role. All right, where's Groob?
Go versus Swift.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a Go versus Swift showdown. Oh, you're all the way in the back. And then Jesse's there too. Wow, that's far back there. All right, so last year we did really great. We took some kind of suggestions from the audience as to what we wanted to do. I have some in mind, and I've been sitting on my hands all day not writing code around this. Honest, you can check my commits. I have not been writing code on this. So first of all, to query the audience, who wants a tool that does something? All right, good. We got that out of the way. There's a definite need for a tool that does something. So ideally, we'd like to keep this topical, and we'd like to have this interact with Mojave and then solve an admin MacDevOps issue. So with that in mind, who's got ideas of a tool we should build? Oh, come on. You were all excited about needing a tool, and now you just shut up. I said Mojave. All right. So a stethoscope app for Swift, like a UI?
Yeah, currently stethoscope app is Electron-based.
Ooh, I'm sorry. If anyone's here from Electron.
It has a usable set of features of what it does.
Okay.
That are well defined.
That's interesting. I like that. So you can kind of interact with it. The user gets feedback as to whether the machine is secure, those kinds of things, right? Like a little user dashboard. That's actually very cool. Yeah, traffic lights, red, yellow, green. So Stethoscope is an open source project from Netflix that allows you to kind of check host device trust, or maybe host security posture, health. And while you can use it in a managed environment, its real intent was for the end user, right? And for the end user to be very aware of what's going on. But an Electron app is probably 80 megs of stuff you don't need to show 3 lights. Fair enough. And I know the Swift binaries are large, but they're not that large. So that's very cool. Actually, I'm very excited about that. And that would be a fun way of taking an engine stethoscope that already runs and then putting a UI on top of it and having that be a little tool. All right, so I'm excited about that. That's one thing. Any other things? Do I have to say my idea? Who can rewrite Monkey or Swift? Monkey and Swift or Go the fastest? Yep. Ooh, that could be fun. That could be fun. We could do that, but not tonight. Not tonight. That'll be for later. All right. The mojo is coming in. It's good. It's good. Okay. Yeah. A replacement for Coco Dialogue. Yo. Yeah. And improving that a little bit, or making that a little bit more native. Yo's in Swift. It's just notification center stuff. Okay. So interesting. Very cool. I like that idea. That should also be pretty easy to add that in, and it brings in the Mojave part. Matt?
We're going to get Eric to come out this year to talk about profile creators, or that's an idea. Is working on
Sure.
profile creator.
Yes. So there's some profile stuff. That's interesting. Does anyone want to hear my idea? Not really? Looks like we're out of time. So this also came up, and this is the thing I've been sitting on my hands, but if we don't use it for Hack Night, I'll just write it anyway. A user creator, who uses createuser.py? Yeah. No bueno on Mojave. Boo. Discal won't allow you to shove the hash into the user record, and you can't just lay the p list down like you used to before, right? So if you're not familiar with createuser.py, it's a Python script that would create a package. That package would really be just a p list, which would then go into VARDB user local default database, something hidden, whatever. And then you'd have a brand new user on the account with a hashed password in there. So that way you didn't have to put a plain text password into a create user command or something else like that. That is broken because of some SIP light. I don't know, is there a name for it? It's not SIP, but it's kind of like SIP, that protects that database or that folder of the user records from being munged with by packages. I get it. It's a valid concern, but it tends to make the administration of the machines a little bit harder. My supposition is that we can do this all through the Open Directory APIs and have a binary tool that would take a password hash, just like createuser.py does now, and then inject that into a brand new user record using the Open Directory APIs, and you create that user. So a little bit different than just a package. You'd have a payload-free package that runs a binary, but you could also do this from the command line too, without having to create the package first and then have it, go in. So I'm actually very interested in that. And if you're familiar with some of the stuff that we've done, like Nomad Login, 5x5, as the kids say, on the login window on Mojo. So I'm very confident that we can create users and other things with the Open Directory APIs. So the next step is just to making sure that's in there. So, all right, 3 great ideas: stethoscope, something around notifications, because there's some new stuff in Mojo, create user piece. So if you want to join us at 7 o'clock, we're going to be in this room. There will be cake. There'll be lots of food. And we're going to be going until we get something useful. And then tomorrow, we'll show it off a little bit. Anything that we do, we'll post all the code, so you have that. If you just want to come and hang out and chat about Swift and how it's superior to Go and Python and these other languages, we'd be more than happy to do that as well. And so it'll be fun time. So 7 o'clock. All right, so who's hanging out with us tonight? Wow, that's amazing. This is great. So we have chatted with a few folks. Definitely the Swift create user got a lot of interest. Especially with Pi create user kind of going away and not being as functional. There's some pretty good pieces to that because there's some crypto bits that we're probably going to have to import common crypto for, so you get some idea of how to import Objective-C into your project. We also have the Open Directory APIs, which can be a bit of a nightmare even if you do know what you're doing. So that's going to be kind of fun. So we're going to be working on that. And then actually I'm relatively intrigued, although I hate to say this, but I'm glad he's not here, with Alistair's suggestion about a new UI around stethoscope for kind of user interaction, letting him know. Is anyone using stethoscope?
Netflix.
Well, all right. Well, maybe then it's not that as exciting. Well, okay. That was going to be a fun project kind of around the UI. So we can definitely tackle both of those. And once we get done with the podcast, we'll be kind of dividing up a little bit into kind of looking at some of it. Do we have a projector in the room? No, I have the Slack chat.
I'll get one.
That's fine.
You want one? I'll get one.
If we got one, like a little one.
Pseudo?
Sudo get me a projector. Because it would be kind of cool, I think, if we can do that. And then we'll also have just some general chat around 1014 and kind of what that means. We'll get Xcode 10 going for 1014, so we can chat about that a little bit. And if you got other project ideas or just random code comments, suggestions, we'd love to talk about them, and more than happy to work with you through that tonight. And then I think last year we went maybe until about 10 or 11 o'clock. We weren't a super late crowd. We probably won't be that way tonight either. But then tomorrow, whatever we get done, and I'm fairly certain we can get a create user setup done. We'll be able to bring that off, show that off tomorrow. Other languages are welcome, but you know, just understand. Maybe it won't go so well. But it's not a threat. Just a statement. So, any questions? Any other ideas for what we'd like to accomplish, Mr. Dodge?
Check.
That
Mike,
could
check.
be interesting.
Are you comfortable?
A Swift GUI
Yeah.
for the command line tool for micro MDM.
I think that would be cool, because we had a couple of checkboxes. I saw a group using that, and that it was kind of hairy how many flags was going in there in one space. So that could be kind of cool. And a really easy way of showing off how to connect a GUI into just a command line binary with a couple of tick boxes or stuff like that. So yeah, that could be fun. That'd actually be a good thing to do.
How about a Swift project to reinstall all the open source projects on server and make a new? No.
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 But Alex.
We're trying very hard not to incur tech debt. It's over. Let it go.
Oh.
Let it go. Let it go.
My whole life has been deprecated.
My whole life has been deprecated. Now I hand the mic to Mike Dodge.
Well, no, with the Brewcast thing or Brewstew and Swift, and you could probably re-implement.
No, just because you can
Can
doesn't mean you should.
Can we re-implement all of Henry's things in Swift? Yeah.
Henry's thing, of course.
I mean, no.
No. So we'll have hang around, have a good time, and sounds like we could probably get at least 2 or 3 good projects out of that. MDM Cuddle UI. What are we going to call it?
Let's think about it after.
I know, because MDM Cuddle is already the tool, right?
It's got somewhere we got to work in. My life has been deprecated, but anyway.
MDM Cuddle UI deprecation life.
Okay.
All right, and if
Thank you,
anybody
Joel.
has any icon ideas, we're accepting them now as well, because whatever we do has to have an icon for it, right?
Goats and trees.
And
Goats
Sam will
and
probably
trees.
have already registered 4 URLs to go for that. And a goat. Well, we can put a goat on it. I like that. Goat eyeball. Is that different from other eyeballs?
Okay, before we get off the code of conduct track here, and there's a wonderful reception going to be set up very shortly. So stick around, have some food and beverages, and then Mac
we're
Events
excited.
podcast.
We're excited.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
So how was Hack Night in general, Joel?
Hack Night in general was great, and I recommend it for everybody. And I can show you what we came out of, and we'll get this posted. So one of the thoughts, or one of the needs that we had, was the ability to take a hashed password, a password hash, and add that into a user. If you're using PyCreateUser to create a package that does exactly that, allows you to lay a user down. Maybe that's not the right way to put that. Allows you to put a user on the disk. All right? And once you have that user on the disk, it's just plist files, right? What we were manipulating previously, you can find by cd var db dslocal, capital dslocal, nodes, default, lowercase users.
You need to be root.
At that point? Yep. So I'll do what he told me to do before and do the sudo bang bang. But that's the sudo ls. Here we go, sudo s. There we are. cd var db dslocal, lowercase, local, nodes, default, users. and in here. So all these are little flat files. And if I do a defaults read var db ds local default users non-admin plist, you can actually see this is your user record. This is the picture, and you can tell by the alternating binary that this is the soccer ball. I'm glad somebody thought that was funny. It's a dad joke. And if you go up here, you will find there's our account policy data, authentication authority, shadow hash here, and then JPEG photo, so it's probably above here. Here's the shadow hash data. So this is your actual hashed password. This is a binary plist, as we found out yesterday, and it's a binary plist wrapped in an array. It's really grody getting this out and then casting it back to a bunch of things. So using PyCreateUser, you can just lay this plist file down. When the machine boots up, everything's good. The password matches. Life is wonderful. Birds sing. Rainbows appear. However, PyCreateUser, who's using it on booted systems? Well, maybe we didn't solve a huge problem then. We have a few people that are using it on booted systems. And the problem is PyCreateUser is a package. You can't touch these files anymore in 10.14. So now we have a solution to that, which is this little bit of code. I actually use this to create the user account with the specified GUID, but you can also pass it in arguments for entropy, iterations, and the salt, and we will actually build this plist, which is your hashed password. We'll then convert it to a binary plist, and then using the Open Directory APIs, we take our user record out of Open Directory, we set the value to it, we wrap it as an array because it expects that, and then we overwrite the shadow hash data attribute. So now you can take those three parts and a hat tip to Go and Groob for having taken some of his code that will generate these parts, the shadow hash, the salt, the entropy, I guess, all the pieces that make up a PBKDF2, SHA-512, RSA-38, YYZ, double EEX.
This is all supported by MDM.
Correct. So very similar function to what MDM is doing. At the DEP enrollment stage, when MDM is creating a user and putting down the password, somewhere in that mix is this chunk of a property list that has those kind of hashed values into it. So we're taking that, we're bundling it into a binary plist, and then we're injecting it into the user record. And all of this works really well. This tool will also allow you to create a user itself. So we've got a whole operations piece in here that allows you to set a GUID, a GID, whether they're an admin or not, whether they can change their own password. You can feed it arbitrary attributes. We don't have a good way of doing that from the command line just yet, but we'll get there. And then we build in the entire user record, fire up an Open Directory node. Do we change the password? Do we add a password to it? Are they an admin? If they are, we add them to the admin group. And then we make it so. So this is a handy way of actually going through and kind of doing user operations from a command line level. It has nothing really to do with FileVault. You would have to enable these users afterwards for FileVault. So if you are trying to do something that's a little more useful, this maybe isn't the tool for you. But if you've got like a service account, a local service account on the machine, we were chatting about build systems. We don't want to have them integrated with LDAP, AD, or something else like that. But you want to update the password for your build service agent, whatever that may be on that system. You can now use this tool to update those. And then, put it out via script, via Monkey. There's ways of putting this into a package that you'd be able to do that as well. So something very functional. No UI this time like we did last year. Then we did get into a conversation around a UI for stethoscope, for kind of showing users what kind of host security posture they have and what they could improve on. So I think that's actually very interesting, using OS Query as an engine to do those local tests and then bubbling it up into a UI with then buttons for remediation for the users so they know where to go from there. I think that's some very, very cool stuff. That there was more than going to be what one night and a few beers was going to be. But I'm excited that we got this. I put a little more work into it last night at the hotel so we could do the FileVault setup. But otherwise, it's fairly straightforward and should allow you some decent functionality in it.